Chairs No Waiting, episode number 180. Goober, Presiding Goober and Ken. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the fine folks over at WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and pick up some wonderful Mayberry items they got over there. I know I'm always telling you these things, so just drop by over there and look. They got the 50th anniversary box set. They've got it all. The Dillards, CDs, all kinds of things for you at WeaversDepartmentStore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by Audible. If you drop by audibletrial.com or click the link on our website, you can you can get a 14-day free trial of audiobooks from Audible. Now, if you like audiobooks, you listen to the podcast, you might enjoy listening to audiobooks as well, and they have over 100,000 titles to choose from. And even if you don't keep going after the 14 days, the book you choose is yours free to keep from Audible. So drop by audibletrial.com. Hello, everybody. I'm Allan Newsome, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting. It's great to have you here on the podcast. Tonight's episode is going to be called Goober, Presiding Goober, Ken, or I should say, and Ken. So, so tonight's episode is a wonderful interview that I found that comes to us from fellow Mayberry fan Bart Boatwright. Perhaps he should have been the executive producer tonight. Why don't we make him? Bart Boatwright, executive producer for episode number 180. Now, Bart posted a video over on YouTube, and we'll have a link in the show notes for this. So if you want to watch the video of this interview, feel free to go over there and do that. And I'll have a link to it right there in the show notes. So you can go by twochairsnowaiting.com, episode number 180, and you'll see the link to this. But Bart posted the interview. It's George Lindsey interviewing authors Jim Clark and Ken Beck about their book, The Andy Griffith Show Book, on Nashville Now. Now, I don't know if you remember that. It used to be, I think TNT is what it is now, but it used to be, I forgot. It was a Nashville Network, the Nashville Network, TNT, the Nashville Network. And now it's Turner Network Television, but it's the same channel. And there was a show called Nashville Now, and George was, he was actually the guest host for the evening. And they had, I'm sure this is part of the reason they did it, but they had Jim Clark and Ken Beck. Now, for those that don't know, Jim Clark is the presiding goober of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. And Ken Beck and him are the ones that wrote the Andy Griffith Show book. So that's where our titles come from, because Goober is interviewing Presiding Goober and Ken. So that's the title of the show is Goober, Presiding Goober and Ken. So that's where we came up with it. I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. It's a great one. It's about 7 minutes long, and we'll be hearing from George Lindsey, and like I said, and Presiding Goober of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, Jim Clark, as well as co-author of the Andy Griffith Show book, Ken Beck. So let's hear from them.
Well, our next guests are authors of a new book which they call The Complete Guide to One of Television's Most Loved Shows, and I'll have to agree with it. It's the Andy Griffith Show Book, and I know a little bit about that show, so I want you to make welcome Ken Beck and Jim Clark. Well, I never thought I'd be talking to some guys who wrote a book. Now, I've read this book, and it's delightful. And it's called the Andy Griffith Show Book. And what it does, it doesn't tell about us. In case any of you don't know, I played on that show for 7 years, like, what was it, 104 segments?
That's right, 104.
And it tells about the character we played. In other words, it gives Goober's background, not my background. It gives Opie's background. Am I correct?
Right. It's about the characters on the show rather than about the actors, as you say, or the actresses.
And about the history of the town of Mayberry.
Right. Trivia and facts from the show.
Just jump in there, Ken, anytime you feel like it.
Okay.
How did you get the idea to write this?
Well,
before you answer that, I want everybody to know that you are the head goober.
Presiding Goober.
The Presiding Goober. Are you ready?
Of a group called the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. It started about 7 years ago at Vanderbilt University when I was at school there. And that's really where my interest in starting to do the book evolved from. And Ken had the same idea. We got together and decided to do the book and spent about 3 years working on it.
3 years to write this book.
Researching it.
Well, how do you research something that's not real?
You watch the episodes over and over.
How many episodes did we do?
There were 249. There were first 159 were in black and white, and the last 90 were in color. So
I might tell you here that starting January the 29th, we are going to do a movie called Return to Mayberry on NBC, and you know about this.
right.
And I talked to Andy day before yesterday, and it's going to have Andy and Barney, and it's going to have all of us. And it's a 2-hour picture. It's going to be out in May, and I really hope you watch it because it's a chance for all of us to get back and do what we used to do. And, of course, we all look the same.
One thing I wanted to ask you, are any of the sets left at all from the old Mayberry series?
No, they're looking for a place to shoot it now, I think somewhere around in California. None of them, because when it was over, and we all took our caps. In fact, my Goober cap is bronzed and on my den at the house. You're from North Carolina, I know
Right, I'm
that.
from Greensboro.
And your mother wrote me and said one of the things that you really wanted in your whole life was a Goober cap, and
Right.
I was really ready to get rid of it.
She sent it to me, and I treasure it. It's wonderful.
And how'd you get your interest in it, Ken?
Well, I was in the 3rd grade in 1960 when the show first came on the air, and I'm not close to
What? Say that again. You were what?
I was in the 3rd grade when the show came on the air.
Yeah,
And,
well, any of you people want to write me, just address it to the home.
I was born that year. So.
You were born that year. Good. You won't ever be on this show again. No, just joking, guys.
But anyway, I lived a very normal, all-American boyhood, played baseball, ate peanut butter sandwiches. But every Monday night, the world stopped and my family went to Mayberry, and we've been going there ever since.
You know, it's pretty much, we've gone through about 3 generations of viewers, and I understand now there's about 50 million people a week watch us. We premiered October the 3rd, 1960.
That's correct.
And it was a well, it was my career that when I got on that, I'd been on Broadway and all that kind of stuff and in television, but that thing, you know, it's Goober power, folks. Now, what do you do now? How many Andy Griffith Rerun Watchers Clubs are there in the United States?
There are about 225 right now, nationwide and overseas. They have a variety of different names, such as there's one called Goober, and there's a Goober Says Hey chapter, and a Hey to Goober, and Nip It in the Bud, and all the different characters.
Andy, nip it in the bud.
That's right, Nip It. And so they're all over across the country. The people to get together and watch the show in small groups and have cookouts and barbecues and that kind of thing.
And about how many members in each group?
Probably average around 50. We have about 10,000 members in the club, so it's growing every day.
And I bet every one of those would like to buy my album.
Yo.
So where are you from, Ken?
I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I'm a writer for the Tennessean here in Nashville.
And you work at Vanderbilt.
Work at Vanderbilt.
And will there be another book?
I don't think so. We think this one's pretty much suited us as far as what we wanted to do for the show, as far as in book form, I believe.
Do you mind if I just, to give you an idea what this book is about, I just inadvertently opened it to the chapter that says Goober Pile. Goober was born and raised in Mayberry and was a bully as a child. See, I never knew all that. He had a dog Spot, so named because he didn't have any spots. As a lad, Goober earned a quarter a day by chopping wood for the neighbors, feeding chickens and slopping their hogs, delivering groceries for the general store, and then working in his dad's gas station. Well, what it is, it's our autobiography.
Right.
I mean, not biography,
Right.
of the character we played.
Right. It's almost every fact that's ever mentioned about the characters on the show is in some way included in our book, we hope.
And Ken told me the first edition was sold out.
That's right. Just sold out. So.
And I bought a whole bunch of them at Christmas. Andy Griffith, I really did. I love to read about me. And Andy Griffith, I talked with him. He's in Manteo, North Carolina, and I talked with him 2 days ago. He said he loved the book, to give you all his best, and you did a fine job, and he appreciates. Or as Andy would say, I appreciate it.
That's good to hear.
They say, on television, you guys have to go. I know you don't have to go, but we have to get rid of you because we've got more guests. And it says, thanks for being here with us. I know you have to leave. But really and truly, this has made a wonderful 1985 for all of us that were on the Griffith Show, and I know you, and I know you, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay? Listen, we're going to return with Jimmy Henley, so stay tuned.
All right, so there we had it. That was Jim Clark and Ken Beck with George Lindsey. And wow, I was just writing down a few notes about that. During the interview, George talked about Jim's mother writing to him and talking about Jim wanting to have a Goober hat. Well, George gave Jim a Goober hat, and Jim Clark still has that hat, which of course he would. But this was in 1985 when when this show aired that we just listened to, and Jim still has that hat, and it's under glass in his office. If you're ever in the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club headquarters, you'll see there's like I guess it's like a cake thing with where it's under glass, kind of like the phone was in the old Batman TV series. It's under there, and there's Goober's hat sitting right there on I guess it's on a bookshelf right there it's sitting. They also mentioned, and this was in 1985, remember that, Jim mentioned that there were 225 chapters of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. Well, as of February 2012, which is the most current edition of the eBullet. The eBullet is the official newsletter of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, and there'll be a link to that. If you don't have it, you definitely should. You'll see it right there, a link in our show notes at twocairsnowaiting.com, and you'll see a link there for the eBullet. But there's currently 1,387 chapters of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. Since 1985, when there were 225, there's been a significant growth. And of course, we've had the internet and everything. Now, Jim and Ken's book, they showed it there. The cover that they actually showed during the interview was the original version. Now, I don't even know if this is the 50th anniversary edition, but there's more than one edition of the book where they've gone in and made a few corrections along the way. And added just a little bit of stuff, but they made mostly corrections before each printing of the book. So I definitely encourage you to head on over to weaversdepartmentstore.com. You can head over there and pick up a copy of the Andy Griffith Show book right there at Weavers. So head over there. That's a great way to support the podcast and support Jim Clark and Ken Beck, who Jim definitely has done so much for Mayberry, and Ken has worked so much with Jim as well. Now, they also said, is this the only book you're going to write? George said, are you going to write another one? Is there going to be another one? Jim's like, no, I think we said pretty much everything that could be said in this book. So we really don't think we'll write another book. And of course, if you go over to Weavers, you'll see it. Just look around for Beck and Clark, and you'll see that they've written Mayberry Memories, Mealtime in Mayberry, Aunt Bee's Cookbook. There are several books about the Andy Griffith Show that Jim Clark and Ken Beck have been involved in. So thankfully, they didn't stop at that first book, and they kept on writing. So we really appreciate it. Now, folks, I don't know where we'd be without Jim Clark as the presiding goober of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, because we probably wouldn't have all this organization that allows for us to have the iMayberry.com site, the iMayberry community that we have just started not long ago. So if you go to iMayberryCommunity.com, there's something there for you to play with and visit and get to know each other. And as I said, we've got the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Writers Club website, which is imayberry.com. And I definitely encourage you to drop by there as well. Folks, there's just so many things that I don't think would have even existed had it not been for Jim. And we really appreciate all that he's done. And Ken was right there with him. And so we want to thank both of them. Now, I'm going to play one little audio clip we had here. We had a voicemail that came in this week from one of our listeners who's usually in the chat room and visiting with everybody in the chat room. He's a member over at the iMayberry community. So let's see here if I can get this to play. And we'll hear from John Lane. So, John, what do you got to say?
Hey, Allan. This is John Lane, also known as Gorman Barney Floyd from the podcast. I'm just calling to say I've been doing skipping around, and even though I've seen a lot of your episodes, I've been skipping around to the interviews and stuff, and I really like the interviews. I also saw the Scooby-Doo one. I liked that. I didn't know that Don Knotts was in Scooby-Doo, and he's actually known as Don Knotts there. I think that's pretty cool. That's one of the really old Scooby-Doo things. Also, I was hoping that you could put some more those interviews, if you have any more interviews or any question and answer sessions like you did with Don Knotts, and maybe some those cast reunion things. Do you have any clips more of that besides the one Opryland you've already done? Keep up the good work. I think you've been doing good. Talk to you later. Bye.
Hey. All right. Well, hey, we thank you, John. Appreciate you calling in, taking time to call in. We'd love to hear from all of you folks. If you call us at 888-684-8415, it's toll free. You can give me a call, leave a message. So John had asked about doing more of the interviews and things like that. I have several things like that, and I try to throw them in when I can, and we will as I find new ones. Some of them are questionable as to whether we have the rights to use them or not. I want to thank again. This episode that we did today. Bart Boatwright was the one who posted that, so he has the original video from the TNN, is who it was, the Nashville Network, TNN, and he has that. So we want to. I thank him for letting us do it, but we have to try to make sure, as best I can. I try to make sure I'm not breaking any copyright laws or doing anything I shouldn't do. So there's always an issue of that. So even if I have things, sometimes I can't actually record them as part of the podcast, but I want to thank all those folks that let me do that. And if you have something like that laying around your house, if you got a cassette tape or if you got a videotape where you have interviews of the cast members and you'd like to send that to me for me to be able to use, I would love the help. That would be that'd be great. But I just want to thank folks like John for just coming by and visiting and being a part of the community we're trying to build around Mayberry, especially at the iMayberry community site. And John's been there a lot and been posting messages. And right now we got 14 people in the chat room. So we have a lot of folks that are constantly visiting and having conversations. So, all right, folks. Well, that's all I have for you this evening. And we hope you guys enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you. You can call me at 888-684-8415. You can send a email to me at floyd@imayberry.com. Or you can drop by our website at twochairsnowaiting.com and leave a message there on any episode of the podcast, and we'll see it there, your comments there. So, and don't forget over at Facebook, we wouldn't mind seeing you there. So many ways to stay in touch. We'll see you guys over at the iMayberry community, so drop by there too. So, see you guys next week for Two Chairs No Waiting, your Mayberry podcast. Bye, folks.